period of his life, called some of his confidants Khawas, those people in Samarra, and told them that Hasan al-Askari was going to be their Imam after him. So they believed it, and they propagated this to other Shia, whatever they could do. But there was this oppression. I keep repeating oppression, tyranny, so that you let that sink in. Let that sink in. It's not Ghadir that the Holy Prophet is openly telling who is his successor. It's extreme oppression. Extreme. And that's why we see in Islamic literature and Shia literature that none of the Imams made use of their ilmul ghaib as much as Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam. Very interesting point. Ilmul ghaib, what is that? The knowledge of the unseen. Telling people about things that are out of the ordinary, that ordinary people cannot know. Why did he have to do that? Because people doubted him. They doubted him so much that he had to, from time to time, express, manifest his ilmul ghaib, which all A'immah have, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to them. But he would show it more often, more often, more often, so that people didn't have doubts about his imamah. For example, we have many narrations about Imam Hasan Askari alayhi salam, where he told people what they were thinking, what kind of thoughts they had, what kind of ideas they had. There is this famous narration that refers to a part of verse number 16 of Surah At-Tawbah that I recited in the opening sermon. This is related to that ilmul ghaib also. There was a man, his name was Sufyan. Apparently he was a Shia of the Imam, and he says that he wrote a letter to Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, asking about this verse number 16 of Surah At-Tawbah, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to those people who truly struggle in his way. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَمْ يَتَّخِذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَلَا رَسُولِهِ وَلَا الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَلِيجَةً. And those people who truly struggle in his way, what do? They do not take anyone other than Allah and his messenger and the mu'mineen, the believers, walijah. They don't take any walijah. I deliberately did not translate the word walijah. They don't take any walijah other than Allah, Allah's messenger, and other than the believers. This man, Sufyan al-Sabaghi, he says, I wanted to know what is a walijah. So he wrote a letter to Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam and asked, what is walijah in this verse? And then sent the letter. And he says, I thought in my heart I had this question as well, which I did not write in the letter. What does the mu'mineen mean here? He just thought about it but did not write in the letter. The Imam wrote back, replied, and wrote a letter to Sufyan that walijah here means someone that people take as Imam while he has not been appointed Imam by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Walijah means someone that takes someone who is taken as Khalifa, leader, Imam, Khalifatul Muslimin, while Allah has not appointed him to be the Khalifa. And then the Imam wrote, and by the way, the mu'mineen that you wonder about, they are the A'immah, the Imams from the children of Fatimatu Zahra, salamullahi alayha. So this is something very easy for the Imams to know what people are thinking, what goes on in their minds and hearts. But Imam Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam had to show it time and time again. Time and time again. So this is what he did. The second thing, which is the most important thing that the Imam did, as I said, I will tell you his tactics, how he laid the foundations, how he made Shia Islam flourish for in the times to come. The thing that the Imam found most important was to tell the Shia about the 12th Imam. To tell the Shia about the 12th Imam. Because people had doubts. People had many doubts about. Just imagine that the 10th Imam could not tell all the Shia openly. Please recite a salawat, because I see some laughters and smiles, which makes me think what's going on here. Because the 10th Imam could not tell openly to the Shia and who was going to be the 11th. So just imagine how difficult it was for the 11th Imam, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, to tell people openly who was going to be the 12th Imam, while the Abbasids, they were waiting and they were looking for the 12th Imam, and they wanted to kill if they could get their hands on that boy. So it was kept in secrecy. And the Shia started to have doubts. So this man, who was one of the wukala, one of the representatives of the Imam, who came all the way from to see the Imam, and he says that I just sat there and a thought crossed my mind, is there an Imam after Imam al-Askari alayhi salam? Is there any Imam? Does he have a son? Then the Imam manifested his ilm al-ghayb again. The Imam said, don't worry, Ishaq, his name, Ahmad ibn Ishaq, don't worry. Since Allah has created the earth, He hasn't left it empty of His hujjah. And it's going to be so until the last day. And then the Imam went inside his house. And then this narrator says that I saw he came with a boy on his shoulder, whose face was like full moon. And he says, هَذَا صَاحِبُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِي. He is your sahib. He is your ulul amr after me. So you see, the Imam used to tell his confidants, his close friends, his ashab about those things, about the Imam of our time. This is something he took very seriously, but only the close friends and confidants he would tell, because it had to be kept in secrecy. After that, the Imam wanted this message, his message, to spread to all the areas of the Muslim world, because the Shia had started to spread all across the Muslim world, all the way to Samarkand. You know, Samarkand is in present-day Turkmenistan. So Naishapur, Samarkand, Ahwaz, Hijaz, all these areas, all the way up to north of Iraq, Kurdistan, all those areas had Shia. And the Imam needed to get his message across to all those areas and make all those Shia know that there is a 12th Imam after him. But to the confidants of those areas. So he had this system, network of wukala, a network of representatives who would come all the way from those faraway places to see him and learn about things, learn about the 12th Imam, also get the answers to their questions. They had questions because the ghullat were at that time at peak. Who are the ghullat? Who do ghuluv? This was another challenge. Who say that the Imams are like gods. They would do ghuluv. Then the Sufiya, the Sufis were also on the rise. And people were being affected by both ghuluv, tasawwuf, fake spirituality, wrong aqaid. And the Shia were going to be affected by all that, and there was a fear that they were going to lose their faith of pure tawheed. So the Imam would write letters, would write long answers to people's questions and queries. And those wukala would take them to those faraway places, to their communities. And what had to be announced publicly, they would announce that. And what had to be kept secret, they would keep that secret. And then within Samarra, the Imam had some friends and confidants that he needed to convey messages to in secrecy because he couldn't openly meet them. One of those confidants was Uthman ibn Sa'id. You have heard this name. Uthman ibn Sa'id is one of the 4 deputies of the Imam of our time. In the minor occultation that lasted for 70 years, there were 4 deputies that the Imam had through whom the Shia could contact the Imam of our time, the first 70 years before the major occultation started. So during those 70 years, the first of the Nuwab Arba'ah, first of the 4 deputies of the Imam of our time was Uthman ibn Sa'id, who was also a confidant of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, who was also a confidant of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. So he was an old man. So once the Imam al-Askari alayhi salam had to send something to Uthman ibn Sa'id in the city of Samarra. I'm going to tell you a narration, a story, very interesting. But also, it tells us about the circumstances in which the Imam lived. So he had to send some important messages to Uthman ibn Sa'id, or send a gift. So the Imam called one of his friends or followers or confidants, whose name was Ibn Aswad. Ibn Aswad called him, and Ibn Aswad was a man who used to sell wood pallets in Samarra. And Imam called Ibn Aswad and said, take this stick, walking stick, to Uthman ibn Sa'id. Give it to him. A stick, it was beautiful. It had some patterns and some symbols on it. And Ibn Aswad took that stick and he went to the neighborhood of Uthman ibn Sa'id, where he lived. Now, the narration goes like this. Ibn Aswad had a mule and a cart on which he had loaded his wood pallets. And he got onto that cart and put the stick somewhere on the cart and continued and went to the house of Uthman ibn Sa'id. When he entered the street where the house of Uthman ibn Sa'id was, there was a waterman coming from front who also had a mule and a cart. And the street was narrow. So there was not enough space for both to cross. And this Ibn Aswad says that at that moment I got into arguments with the waterman. And soon it turned into a heated argument, and I became angry. And I picked up that stick that the Imam had given to me to be handed over to Uthman ibn Sa'id, and with that stick I gave a beating to the mule of the waterman. And when I did that, the stick broke off. Why did it break off? Because it was hollow from the inside and filled with letters. And those letters fell onto the ground. And Ibn Aswad immediately understood what had happened. So he collected quickly all those letters and returned immediately and went back to the Imam. The Imam said to him, do not argue with people. Even if they abuse us. The Imam said, even if they abuse us and use bad words about us, the Ahlul Bayt, even then do not get into arguments with them in these circumstances. In other words, remain under the radar. The Imam said, we are living in a very bad town. You see? Even if they swear, even if they abuse, don't. Do the job quietly and return. He couldn't convey messages to his confidants openly in the same city or town. Let that sink in. And in those circumstances, the Imam gave interpretations of the verses of the Quran. Said those ahadith today that we take for granted, God knows how many great men have struggled and worked hard and put their lives into danger to make that one hadith reach us today, that we take for granted and don't even mention in our majalis, because those ahadith are to be written in al-kafi and collect dust, because we are not interested in the kalam of our Imam that has reached us through so many difficult times by those unsung heroes that we don't even know today. My brothers and sisters. So these are the kind of circumstances the Imam lived in, and through his system of wukala made the people know, learn about their 12th Imam, about their basic aqa'id. And then they were in those circumstances, despite all that oppression and control, the Imam helped people with whatever he could, regardless of their faith and belief. That's the interesting bit. People were still going to see him and ask him for help, and he would generously help them, whether they believed in him or not. Whether they believed in him or not, the Imam helped them, including the Waqifiyah people. Waqifiyah were those people, once in a speech earlier here, probably I have briefly mentioned, Waqifiyah were those people, they were accursed people who believed in 7 Imams. They believed in Imam Musa al-Kazim alayhi salam to be the last Imam, the Imam Ghaib who had gone into occultation. And they did not believe in Imam Reza alayhi salam and the Imams after him. And they were so accursed that Imam al-Askari alayhi salam wrote to his confidants, one of his confidants, do not offer funeral prayer over the Waqifiyah. Don't even go to see their sick. Very strong. While the Imams, other Imams used to say, go to the Muslims. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, go to the Muslims, the majority Muslims who believe in the caliphs, who don't even believe in one Imam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam used to say, go and pray in their mosques, have cordial relations with them. But when it comes to Waqifiyah, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam used a severe tone. Why? Because they were such a fitna that they were going to corrupt the Shia from within. But when the very Waqifiyah came to see the Imam and sought help from him, he would generously help them, because they have come to his door. And there he is a manifestation of the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not going to keep anything. He's going to give. You are waqifiyah in personal capacity? No problem. Come, you need help? Yes. So let me tell you one narration, and after that, quickly that hadith, and after that, dua. But this one narration, very interesting. So there was this man, Waqifiyah, who was one of the great-grandchildren of Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam. Because many children and great-grandchildren of Imam al-Kazim alayhi salam had become Waqifiyah. So he narrates, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Ibrahim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, his name. Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Ibrahim ibn Musa al-Kazim alayhi salam. This man narrates that, he says, Muhammad tells that his father Ali, who was Waqifiyah, and this man Muhammad is also Waqifiyah. He is narrating to a third person, and the third person is telling that Muhammad said to me, I was very poor, and my father was also very poor. And one day my father Ali said, let's go to that man. That man might help us. And I asked, which man? And he said, Hasan al-Askari, the son of Ali. And I said, okay, let's go. And on the way, my father said, how nice it would be if he gave me 500 dinars, out of which 200 I will use to buy clothes, 200 I'll use to pay back my debts, and 100 for general expenses. Now this man says, I thought, I didn't tell my father, but I thought how nice it would be if he gave 300 to me as well. I would use 100 to buy clothes, 100 to pay my debts, and 100 to buy a mule or a horse. And then I will go to Kohistan area to start a new life. Kohistan is the area near Qazvin in present-day Iran. And he thought about it. He says, we went to the house of Hasan ibn Ali al-Askari, and as we approached his house, a servant came out of his house, and he said, Muhammad and his father Ali, come inside. And we were surprised that they already knew our names. They say we went inside and we sat quietly next to Hasan al-Askari. And then Hasan al-Askari asked my father, what took you so long? And after much deliberation, you have come to see me. Apparently he had been deliberating, thinking whether I should go, whether I shouldn't go. So his father said, I have been deliberating because I felt embarrassed to come and see you. Now the narration does not tell what happened after that. They kept sitting there quietly, and then this narrator tells that Muhammad said, Muhammad ibn Ali, that my father and I left the house of Hasan al-Askari. And as soon as we left the house, the servant came running after us. And he took a pouch out and he gave that to my father Ali. And he said, these are 500 dinars, 200 for you to pay back your debts, 200 for you to buy clothes, and 100 for your general expenses. This narrator says that Muhammad said to me that I was surprised what was going on. And while I was thinking that, he gave another pouch. He took another pouch out and gave that to me and said, these are 300 dinars for you. 100 to pay back your debt, 100 to buy clothes, and 100 to buy a mule or a horse. But do not go to Kohistan. Go to the city of Surah instead. So this man says, the narrator tells that Muhammad said, I did exactly that. I went to Surah and I married a woman there, and now my income is 1,000 dinar. the narrator says, and still you don't believe in his imamah? Now the answer. This is the punchline. The answer. He says, the wordings are of the narration. When the narrator asked, you still don't believe in his imamah? He said, هذا الأمر لقد جرينا. This waqifiyah belief is an amr, is an affair, is a matter. لَقَدْ جَرَيْنَا. That in our households, it has become a rawaj. It has become a custom. We have become accustomed to the waqifiyah faith so much, so that despite having seen the miracles of Hasan al-Askari, we cannot believe in his imamah. And someone translated this narration into Urdu language in a colloquial way, which I really like the translation, and I'm going to translate it into English for you. And they wrote that this person said that the Waqifiyah faith has now diffused into our blood. We just cannot accept his khilafah, his imamah. This is the problem. This brings me to the last part, just 5-6 minutes or so, of the hadith that I wanted to talk about. The hadith attributed to Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. Very important hadith. Continuing from here, building upon this narration, when some people stick to their false beliefs, they can reach a state where they can't accept the truth. And this is happening. And it all starts with doubts. It all starts with doubts. And Imam al-Askari alayhi salam has used a severe tone for ulama usu, evil scholars. Often it's the scholars who mislead, or the so-called scholars. And your community knows, and we all know, there are scholars whose job is to create doubts and mislead people, especially our youth. And Imam al-Askari alayhi salam is as if he is talking about us. What does he say? وَهُمْ أَضَرُّ عَلَى ضُعَفَاءِ شِيعَتِنَا refers to those evil scholars. وَهُمْ أَضَرُّ, and their damage, their darar, is worse upon ضُعَفَاءِ شِيعَتِنَا. The Shia, our Shia, who are du'afa, who have a weak faith. The darar, the damage they cause those evil scholars, that damage is worse, very strong on those Shia who have a weak faith. Why? Yes, فَإِنَّهُمْ يَسْلُبُونَهُمُ الْأَرْوَاحِ. No, the verse, sorry. I need to say, أَضَرُّ مِنْ جَيْشِ يَزِيدَ. That's the word, severe tone. وَهُمْ أَضَرُّ عَلَى ضُعَفَاءِ شِيعَتِنَا مِنْ جَيْشِ يَزِيدَ عَلَى الْحُسَيْنِ ibn Ali عَلَيْهِمَ السَّلَامُ وَأَصْحَابِهِ. The Imam says that the damage they cause upon our weak Shia is worse than what the army of Yazid caused to Hussein and his companions. فَإِنَّهُمْ يَسْلُبُونَهُمُ الْأَرْوَاحَ وَالْأَمْوَالَ. Because they, Yazid's army only, deprived Imam Hussein and his companions of their lives and their belongings. Only. What do they do? But he says, وَهَؤُلَاءِ عُلَمَاءُ السُّوءِ يُدْخِلُونَ الشَّكَّ وَالشُّبْهَةَ عَلَى ضُعَفَاءِ شِيعَتِنَا فَيُضِلُّونَهُمْ. Those evil scholars, they create shak and shubh, doubts and ambiguities into the hearts of the weak Shia, and then they mislead them. Shak and shubh, I'm not getting into the details of. I'm going to keep it simple. The time's up. Doubts and ambiguities. Very simple explanation of the two terms. Doubt that something exists or does not exist. But shubh, ambiguity, is that maybe something that I see, it is not what it is, but I think it is. I look at water, I look at something that is najis, and I think maybe it is water. That is shubh. Shak is whether this is water or not. Very simple example. Someone has a doubt whether Ghadir happened or not. Such a person has shak. But someone thinks that even the caliphs were good people like the Amirul Mu'mineen. That person has shubh. And shubh has one definition, that it is very similar to haqq. It has a tashbih. It has a shabih of haqq. That's why it's called shubh. Shabih means similarity, an illusion that it might be the truth, but it is not the truth. The key words are ulama usu, the evil scholars. The other, du'afa o shi'atina, the Shia who have weak faith. And the third is doubts and ambiguities. The Imam is warning us, my brothers and sisters. And you are fortunate to have a resident alim. MashaAllah, may Allah prolong his life and keep him safe. Maulana Sahib, I didn't get the opportunity to see him today. Sometimes I see him, which is a blessing. Always stick to the steadfast ulama ul haqq. Because nowadays those evil scholars create the doubt. Al-walayatu takwiniya is ghuluv. The Imams did not perform miracles. Tawassul is shirk. How can the Imams have that knowledge? How can the Imams have knowledge of the unseen? How this, how that, this, that. Only recently I did a podcast with Jummah nights after Maghrib. And we talked about tawassul and also the maqam of the Ahlul Bayt and the Amirul Mu'mineen and the 14 infallibles. And some people, when it was posted, a part of it that talked about the maqam of the Amirul Mu'mineen and his ilm, some people commented, these are the mufawwidah. And mufawwidah means those people who believe that Allah has handed over his powers to the Ahlul Bayt, while such a thing is rationally impossible, because the unlimited entity cannot hand over anything. There is, where will he hand his powers over to? It's absolutely rubbish. But those comments are not coming from takfiris. The comments are coming from the Shia. This is the thing. The comments are coming from the Shia. Yes, some takfiris as well. So maybe we need to learn about the lives of the last 2-3 Imams, in particular Imam Hasan and Askari alayhi salam. These narrations that sometimes people say, oh, you are telling the same stories every year. Oh, the Imam can know this, or the Imam can know that. Today I read those narrations, some of those. It refreshed my iman. Really, if we learn those narrations, listen to those narrations, listen to those fada'il, it's gonna strengthen our iman. We won't be among the du'afa of Shia. Just by learning about the Imams, learning about these narrations. And there are many more narrations about the Imam, but we don't have the time. But this is what I wanted to present today and speak about today in this limited time. And I hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts this act of ours as worship. O Allah, increase our ma'rifah of the 14 infallibles. O Allah, give us the tawfiq to learn about the narrations of the 14 infallibles and learn about the interpretations of the Quran that have reached us through the 14 infallibles. O Allah, give us the tawfiq to genuinely pray for the return of the son of Hasan al-Askari alayhi salam, the one who will fill the earth with justice. This world is full of zulm. This world is full of injustice, cruelty, children dying, women dying, civilians dying. And who will stop this zulm? The son of Hasan al-Askari, inshaAllah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم ولنا عليهم أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
افضل السلام محمد وآل محمد. مدد کیجئے یا امام زمانہ، مدد کیجئے یا امام زمانہ. ہٹا دیجئے غیبت کا پردہ خدا را، پردہ خدا را. مدد کیجئے امام زمانہ، مدد کیجئے. بڑی آفتیں ہیں زمانے پہ مولا، پریشان شیعہ کہاں جائے مولا. پکارا تمہیں جب ہوا دل جو مضطر، مدد کیجئے زمانہ، مدد کیجئے. سب مل کے پڑھیں یا امام. بلائیں ہیں گھیری نہیں کوئی ساتھی، اندھیرا ہے ہر سو اداسی ہے چھائی. تمہارے قدم سے ہو دنیا منور، مدد کیجئے میں زمانہ، مدد کیجئے. گنہگار ہوں اور شرمندہ مولا، مگر آپ پر ہے مجھ کو بھروسہ. کرو رہبری اب برائے پیمبر، مدد کیجئے یا امام زمان، مدد کیجئے. ہمیں کربلا میں ہو جانا میسر، ہمیں کربلا میں ہو جانا میسر. मदद कीजिए मौला, है दिल की ये हसरत, ज़राए मुक़द्दस से हो आंखें लगाना, मदद कीजिए या इमाम ज़माना, मदद कीजिए में ज़माना, हटा दीजिए गैबत का पर्दा खुदारा, पर्दा खुदारा, मदद कीजिए या इमाम ज़माना, मदद कीजिए या इमाम ज़माना। मोहम्मद व आलि मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम।
السلام عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله، وعلى زوجتك الغراء خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب. السلام عليك يا سيدتي ويا مولاتي يا بنت رسول الله فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا حسن بن علي المجتبى. السلام عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين، وعلى التسعة المعصومين من ذريتك وبنيك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر. السلام عليك يا شمس الضحى ويا بدر الدجى، الثامن من أئمة النجبى علي بن موسى الرضا. سلام الله عليك وعلى أختك فاطمة المعصومة، وعلى ابنك محمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة القائم المنتظر المهدي. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان، عجل الله تعالى ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وهيم اللهم كن لي وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا.